Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I praise Allah the Almighty alone, and I send the best peace and blessings upon His most beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Brothers and sisters, welcome to another live edition of your program Ask Huda. Our phone numbers beginning with the area code are 002-023855-249. Alternatively, area code 002-011-2500-8679. There are alternative numbers, payphone number for those who would like to support the channel, because a part of the payment will be towards supporting the channel and its programs. The number should appear on the screen as well. Otherwise, you can always drop your email address to ask@huda.tv, or you drop your question to my page, Dr. Muhammad Salah Official. Thank you, brothers and sisters, and without any further ado, I'd like to tackle a few pending questions first, then some of the questions which you received on the page and the email address. The first question is about the games which may involve dice in playing them. The Prophet ﷺ forbade playing with dice, and he said, whoever does so is similar to a person who immersed his hands in the flesh and the blood of the swine, because it is merely based on luck. It is some sort of gambling, even though it is just a game. Abu Safwan from Kuwait asked about sometimes when the Imam recites an ayah which involves an invocation, or its meaning is an invocation, then he referred to, like when you say, ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. In this case, should the ma'moom, the follower, say Ameen? No, you should not. And you should not say anything in the fard prayer except what is prescribed. إنما جعل الإمام ليؤتم به. And in this case, you're only supposed to say Ameen. You must say Ameen upon hearing ولا الضالين by the end of the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shayan from Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum, Shayan.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shaykh Salah, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. How are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, we all are fine. Thank you, Shaykh Salah, and the whole of team of Ask Huda for giving us such nice program.
Thank you.
Twice a week. And may Allah bless you all for your effort.
Ameen, ameen. Thank you, brother.
Sir, I have one question, one important question. Alhamdulillah, in the past we had 4 great scholars, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad Hanbal, Rahmatullah alayhi. May Allah be blessed them all. My question is, generally when people ask which sects you follow, some people say we are a Hanafi Muslim, some say we are Shafi'i Muslims, all these things. The question is that can't we just say we are just Muslim and we follow all the 4 scholars? And I'm sure that these scholars, they were not saying anything against the Quran and Sunnah. But why are there different sects, and then why people follow these? Are we allowed to follow all, or should we stick to just one sect? My question is this.
Okay, thank you, Brother Shayan from Pakistan. If you happen to study the biography or the fiqh of the founders of all the different schools of thoughts, not just the 4 most famous imams, but others, you would always find the imam, the scholar, and the founder of the school of thought who did not really thought that he's going to be a founder of a school of thought, but he is studying fiqh for the purpose of learning and teaching others. So you find them out of humility saying that I follow the hadith. If it is sound, then it is my madhab. Which also means that if I follow the hadith, which is later on proven to be weak or not sound, while the opponent's view is relied on a sound reference, then this is going to be my madhab, because they were all seekers of the truth. They were not being opinionated to build their own empire, but they were working to seek the truth. They studied to seek the truth. Sometimes, due to the lack of evidence, they would make an ijtihad. If the evidence appears later on, then la ijtihada ma'a nas. If the ijtihad, the effort that they make in the light of their studies, in the light of the circumstances that they're living in, result in a view, if it is true, the Prophet ﷺ said, they shall receive double reward. And if they concluded a view which is not true, which is not right, they still get rewarded, one reward for making an effort, for making ijtihad. It is not ordinary people or laymen who can make ijtihad to conclude the verdict or the ruling on a contemporary issue at any, say, time or place, but the qualified scholars. And those scholars were qualified. So if there is a difference of opinion, and you are a true Muslim, you should follow the opinion which has a sound proof, regardless whether it is an opinion of your own teacher, or the madhab which is dominating your society, or another madhab. Because Allah the Almighty says, هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. It is definitely not those scholars who made their followers prejudiced or invited to prejudice. Rather, it is the followers who came years later who sometimes perceived these schools of thoughts as different religions. Obviously, they would say this is the true religion, and others are not sound religions or deviant sects. This is absolutely refused and rejected. In fact, when you hear the beautiful statements of these scholars, you will be very impressed, and you will know where the ummah or some of the members of this ummah went wrong. When Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, may Allah have mercy on him, says, my opinion is right, but it could be wrong. And my opponent's opinion is wrong, but it could be right. He opens the door of a possibility, especially if it is concerning something that is ijtihad. Then, after all, we're human beings, even the scholars, who are very deep in knowledge, who are learning the deen from the main two sources, the Quran and the Sunnah. If there is an opinion that was issued or a verdict based on an understanding, but there is a better opinion with a deeper knowledge, with a better understanding, we're supposed to be looking for the truth. All these imams, the first imam, the first of the very famous imams, was born on the year 80 after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ. So I want you to ask yourselves this question. Up to the year 80, and this is when Abu Hanifa al-Nu'man, may Allah have mercy on him, was born. Then he acquired knowledge later at an older age. So let's say that 100 years after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, how people used to go around the religion and ask questions and get answers, even before any of these imams were born. When you think about it this way, you eliminate prejudice from your mind. After studying certain madhahib for so long, then comparative fiqh, if you are a scholar or a seeker of knowledge, or you have an access to any, then the answer is not to follow a particular madhab blindly in every single view or opinion, right or wrong, right or weak, right or if there is even a more right view. Rather, you should follow the truth, whether you find it lying down in the books that is referring to a particular madhab or another. I'd like to give some typical examples, like even though the vast majority of the fuqaha are of the view that women do not have to pay zakah on their jewelry, I feel very comfortable with the view of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on him, in this regard. Not because I'm Hanafi, not because I studied Hanafi for so long, but in this mas'ala, he relied on a sound proof. We quoted the hadith which Al-Imam Abu Hanifa mentioned in this regard a few times before. This is just an example. On the other hand, when we learn that the Prophet ﷺ says, do not pray witr the same way you pray Maghrib. لا تشبهوا الوتر بالمغرب. In this case, I follow the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is very obvious in this regard. Why would one argue and say, but I'm Hanafi? I am Muslim though. And Imam Abu Hanifa was a devout Muslim. Similarly as Shafi'i, wa Malik, wa Ahmad. When a person says, because I'm Shafi'i, I have to recite the Basmala out loud in the beginning of the prayer, and I have to make qunut in Fajr. You know, if you study the Shafi'i madhab and the rest of the madhahib, and you realize that, well, this opinion is weak, and the qunut could be only done in the 5 daily prayers during the calamities, and it is prescribed to be offered al-qunut, making dua in the witr prayer. Besides that, it is not right to single out the Fajr prayer every morning with the qunut. And the Prophet ﷺ used to recite the Basmala, which is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, before Surah Al-Fatiha, quietly in the prayer. That's it. After all, I'm following the Prophet ﷺ. As for the layman, you just go to the local imam and you ask him, if you trust him, if you know that this person is learned, and he gives you the fatwa, you act upon it, then you're not blameworthy. Because it is not expected that all Muslims, or most of them, would devote their lives to seek knowledge and study comparative fiqh and know the sound hadith from the weak hadith and the difference of opinions based on the different understanding of the hadith, or whenever there's conflicting evidences. Not everybody can do that. Not even 10% or 5% of the ummah can do that. So it will be sufficient to rely on the opinion of fatwa committees or a scholar whom you trust, who acquired knowledge and he is not prejudiced. Barakallahu fikum. So Fatima from Gambia, who is a co-wife, she was complaining as how her husband is not fair in treating both his wives. He's living with one in Europe most of the time, and when she travels to visit him, he does not give her her right either. He doesn't even touch her. We know that the Prophet ﷺ forbade that. And Allah the Almighty put al-adala between the co-wives a condition for a man to marry again. فإن لم تستطيعوا فواحدة أو ما ملكت أيمانكم. Allah the Almighty says, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. You may marry a second and a third or a fourth wife. This is in the Sharia of Islam. Islam limited the number of women who can be taken in marriage simultaneously to 4. Limited the number, because before this Islamic legislation, it was unlimited. Then he says, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً. If you're afraid that you will not be fair, you will not treat them fairly if you have 2 wives, but because you're obsessed with the love of one of them, or one is very young and the other is old, one is a beauty queen and the other is not as beautiful, one have children and one does not, so because your love goes for one of them, then you start treating them accordingly. You neglect one entirely. I'd like to remind the viewers, I'm answering this question and delivering a general answer, not necessarily to a particular case, because again, I'm not with the couple, I don't know their conditions, and I don't know whether the question is absolutely accurate, or this is simply the feeling of one of the parties. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you fear to be fair and just, if you fear that you're not going to be just in treating the co-wives, فَوَاحِدَةً, then one is enough. This is not optional though. That's a must. فإن خفتم ألا تعدلوا فواحدة أو ما ملكت أيمانكم ذلك أدنى ألا تعولوا. Brother Muhammad from Ghana, he asked about his new Muslim wife who has a list of questions, and she was inquiring about why do we offer the sacrifice and slaughter animals on the Eid, which is supposed to be a day of celebration. First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْأَنْعَامَ خَلَقَهَا لَكُمْ فِيهَا دِفْءٌ وَمَنَافِعُ وَمِنْهَا تَأْكُلُونَ. Allah says, Al-An'am, the cattle, He created them for you. In them, for you there is warmth, like in the fur, in the skin, in the wool of the cattle, of the animal. لَكُمْ فِيهَا دِفْءٌ وَمَنَافِعُ وَمِنْهَا تَأْكُلُونَ. And from them you eat. There are many ayat in the Quran allowing us to eat the flesh of these animals and of these cattle. And what is forbidden is just a few compared to what is permitted. This is not something which is exclusive in Islam. It's in every faith, in every religion. People do eat meat. There are some people who choose to be vegetarian and they do not want to eat meat. No problem. But Allah the Almighty stated that He created these cattle for human beings to enjoy their meat as far as food after slaughtering them and sacrificing them in the name of Allah the Almighty. The story of the sacrifice on the Eid, which is known as Eid al-Adha, some people like to call it Qurbani Eid because of offering the Qurban or the sacrifice, is simply commemorating the remembrance of the absolute compliance of Ibrahim and Ismail, peace be upon them. As everybody knows that when Ibrahim a.s. was inspired and was tested to slaughter his only son Ismail, and he complied, and he said to his son, إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. He said to his son Ismail, and that's a long and very fascinating story. I've seen a night vision, and I believe that it is some sort of revelation that I'm slaying you, I'm slaughtering you. The son said to the father, افعل ما تؤمر. If it is so, do as you are commanded. Then it says, فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. When they both submitted themselves to the will of Allah, the father was ready to sacrifice his son, and the son did not disobey his father, rather أَسْلَمَا, both submitted and willingly wanted to fulfill the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go through the test. وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَيَّ إِبْرَاهِيمُ قَدْ صَدَّقَتَ الرُّؤْيَا إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Then Allah the Almighty called upon him saying, it was just a test, O Ibrahim, and you fulfilled it. And this is how we reward the good doers. How? Then, 2 ayahs later, it says, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. Then we ransomed him by a great sacrifice. This is a fat ram that Allah the Almighty sent down from heaven to be there before Ibrahim and Ismail, where Allah ordered him to slaughter and sacrifice the ram instead of sacrificing his son. So, on every year, around the same time, Muslims offer the sacrifice which is known as al-udhiyah, to distribute in a charity, to give 1/3 of what they have to the poor, of the food, of the meat, of the animal that they sacrificed, then 1/3 to their relatives and the neighbors, and they can keep 1/3 for themselves if they want to. This is called udhiyah, or the sacrifice. There's something called hajj if you're performing hajj. So the story behind it is basically commemorating the remembrance of the sacrifice of Ibrahim a.s. and how Ibrahim and Ismail, the two prophets, the two great prophets, submitted themselves completely to the will of Allah. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. As far as reciting our prayers upon slaughtering, because slaughtering an animal to eat it was made lawful by Allah, who made everything subservient to us. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه. Surah Al-Mulk. It is He who made the whole earth subservient to you. So He allowed us to walk around in it and eat from His provision. Some people do not like this kind of food. They don't want to eat it because they could not develop a taste to it. They think it's gross. They think others love it. As long as Allah the Almighty have made it lawful for us, then it is lawful to eat. Whether you eat it or you do not eat it, that's entirely up to you. It only becomes forbidden when you consider something that Allah made lawful as unlawful. In the hadith, when Khalid ibn al-Walid joined the Prophet ﷺ for dinner, and the Prophet's wife Maymuna, may Allah be pleased with her, prepared their dinner, he normally would ask about what kind of meat is served. She said, it is the meat of a lizard. The desert lizard is huge. So the Prophet ﷺ did not touch it. Khalid ibn al-Walid, who is the guest, thought that the Prophet ﷺ detested it. So he said, Ya Rasulullah, is it haram? He said, no, it is not haram, but I'm not familiar with it, as it was not common in our family. So he did not eat it, but he did not say, it's gross, I don't like it, and it's awful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Faiza from Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yesterday I would like to ask a question from you.
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
received a hadith from someone today, and in which it said, religion is very easy, and whoever burdens himself in his religion will not be able to continue in that way. So you should not be an extremist.
I think I got your question, Sister Faiza. She is referring to a sound hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ الدِّينَ يُسْرٌ وَلَنْ يُشَادَّ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَ. I will get back to you, inshallah, to answer this question after this call. Sister Asma from Canada.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ask Huda.
Thank you, Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking.
I have this question that obviously we are living in Canada, so we use credit card, but we always pay whatever we buy, and we never pay like small amount or anything. We don't want to pay any interest or anything, so we pay all the credit, whatever we have to pay, we pay all of them at once. But can we do these things or no? Because over here we cannot even rent a home without any credit checking or anything. Because we are renting here a home, we don't want to go on interest. So can we use credit card without paying any interest or anything? Like every month we buy things for grocery and for credit with the credit card. So I hope you understand this question. I don't know if I can explain. I explained it rightly or no?
Yes, you did, Sister Asma. I'm familiar with your
okay.
question. Inshallah, I will be happy to answer you after I tackle Sister Faiza's question from Pakistan. About the hadith, إِنَّ الدِّينَ يُسْرٌ وَلَنْ يُشَادَّ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَ فَسَدِّدُوا وَقَارِبُوا. The Prophet ﷺ says in this hadith, and I did not finish it yet, but she was referring only to the first segment which I quoted in Arabic, that most surely the religion of Islam is easy. It's an easy religion. وَلَا يُشَادَّ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَ. When one overburdens himself with things concerning religious aspects, he will be defeated. The religion will overcome him. What does it mean? It means that the Prophet ﷺ orders us to take it easy upon ourselves. This is something that unfortunately most of us, far, far, far away from it. He was addressing the companions who take it hard upon themselves and they want to do everything at once, like those companions who decided to fast on every single day or to pray the whole night on every single night and the person who decided not to marry, to devote his life to worship. And when he entered the masjid and he saw that Zainab bint Jahsh, may Allah be pleased with her, had tied a rope between two poles so that whenever she stands in the nafl prayer, even if she is sleepy, she would not go to sleep or rest, rather she will keep standing and hang on to that rope. He said, حُلُّوهُ, untie it, لِيُصَلِّ أَحَدُكُمْ نَشَاطَهُ, one of you should pray as long as he feels fresh and awake. فَإِذَا فَتَرَ فَلْيَرْقُدْ, but if you're bored, if you're sleepy, then lie down. So the hadith is referring to those who take the religious duties and overburden themselves with things which they are not required to do in this fashion, or do it excessively. As a result of that, they end up quitting the whole thing altogether. But if the person were to start slowly and gradually but steady, he shall reach. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, when he was asked about the best of deeds, he said, the one which is consistent, even if it is little. So the Prophet ﷺ, again, sister, is referring to those who take it hard upon themselves. Would a young man who decide to pray every prayer in the masjid, because he can afford to do that and the masjid is on a walking distance, and he decided to grow beard, and he decided not to accept a job in a conventional bank even though he was offered 10 grand a month, and he decided not to marry this girl even though his entire family say that she is the daughter of the prime minister and she's a beauty queen and she's very rich, look what she's driving, but she's not wearing hijab, she doesn't pray, so he decided not to marry her. Is this person considered an extremist? No, this is an average Muslim. This is an ordinary Muslim. He's practicing his deen. If a girl decided to wear hijab, she's complying with Allah's command. She decided to wear hijab in Europe, in the States, in a non-Muslim society, anywhere. Because when you stand before Allah, you're not going to say, I did not pray because I was living in Europe. I did not wear hijab because I was living in the States. So the things which people now perceive it as extremism were the norms as far as offering the prayer, complying with Allah's commands, abstaining from the prohibitions. But I explained what is the meaning of being extremist in the worship earlier. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Fatima from United Arab Emirates.
Hello?
Yes, Sister Fatima, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking.
Sheikh, I just want to actually ask just this one question. I came to it because somebody told me that I don't know what they will answer, so I think he will give me the best advice.
What is the question? But do me a favor and mute your TV first, Sister Fatima.
I decided to wear niqab for the sake of Allah, and I really want it. So I'm wearing it and I feel more secure. But I'm working and my work is a customer service, and I need to remove it because of my work, so it's not allowed at work. But when I will finish at work, I will wear it again. And every time I will go outside somewhere, I'm wearing it because I really want it and it really makes me feel so secure. That's why my question is it really bad to remove it like that? Because somebody told me that it's not good. They said once you wear it, you don't have to remove it. So please, Sheikh, help me with this one. I really need your advice.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Fatima. We just have to go for a short break, and inshallah we'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk on your favorite channel, Huda TV. I'm your host, Arkham Rashid. They actually did such and such that you're accusing him of in your mind. So now I want to start off with my right-hand side, Brother Ahmed. If you can just tell us what your thoughts were on that video, what can you extract from that video? Would you say some of the youth turn to drugs, especially in your country, if they don't have jobs, or it's because they want to get away from their daily normal lives? Would you say that's a reason?
Absolutely, that's true. Some people just resort to drug as the last option because they get themselves straight out and they're instead of depression, but they don't know where to turn for help.
Sports per se is like a communal social activity, whereas it collects the community together and it bonds brotherhoods together. It's very social in its aspect where you interact with your teammates or your players in a team.
So I think a message would be just to stay completely away from it. Even we can say, oh look, it's haram.
TV commercials motivate viewers into immediate action and to sway consumer loyalty from one brand or service to the other. That's why we're here for you, to help you sell your products and services by using creative ideas that bring life into your own TV commercial. Advertise your business and branded products and services on Huda TV. We will offer you fast-paced and energetic 30-second affordable TV spots. Advertise on Huda TV, acquire fresh customers and stay within your budget. For more info or to receive a quote, please send your inquiries to advert@Huda TV. Huda TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Sister Asma from Canada in the previous segment called in and she asked about using the credit cards for or possessing them for necessary reasons. It is obvious that those who live in the West, in order to go around, in order to rent a car or buy a plane ticket or order whatever or pay the phone bills, they require to have credit cards, at least one. But when you say that for renting a flat to live in, I don't think you're required to have a credit card. They do have a credit check, but it is not based on the credit card. Why is a sister asking about holding a credit card and whether it's permissible or not, and what would it do? Because in the credit card there is a clause that if you fail to make the payment 45 days from the day of the due date, or from the day that the bill is issued, then you have to pay interest. And this interest is known that it is riba. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade riba, He did not only forbid people from charging people interest, but also paying. لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى آكِلَهُ وَمُؤْكِلَهُ وَكَاتِبَهُ وَشَاهِدَيْهِ. So she has the right to have this concern. And Muslims really have to be concerned about that. But because of the fatwa committees saying that this is a necessity, provided you know that this is not permissible to have it in the first place, except for the fact that you have to have it to fulfill your needs, and when you make the charges, you pay on time to avoid paying interest. Because, by the way, brothers and sisters, mere agreeing to the interest payment, even if you did not do it, is a sin. And that's why she's concerned. And I really applaud that. But if you cannot live without it, and you have to have one, and you get it, and you use it, then make sure that to make the payment soon once the bill is issued. It would be best if you can direct the payment towards your bank account so that it will have a direct withdrawal from your bank account, and in this case you don't worry about the late payment. Jazakumullahu khairan, Sister Asma, may Allah bless you. Sister Fatima from United Arab Emirates, she said, I decided to wear niqab and I feel very secure behind the niqab. May Allah the Almighty keep you steadfast and bless you and your family. But I have to work, and at work as a customer service they don't allow me to wear niqab. Can I wear niqab throughout whenever I'm in the streets or driving or here and there, but only at work I have to take it off? Can I do that, or this is considered some sort of hypocrisy? Because some people say to her that you either wear it all the time or you take it off. We have to look first into the necessity versus the need. First of all, we say the issue of wearing a face veil for women, there are two different opinions. So if you choose to wear it, we will applaud that, we will support you, because it's a very well-respected opinion. And this is how the wives of the Prophet ﷺ used to wear, and the companions, the wives of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And there are many indications in this regard. But if you're a woman who have to work because you have no choice, you have to work to support yourself or support your family, and the job itself is halal, but they won't allow you to work unless if you take off your niqab, then wear it outside once you're done with your job. If you have a chance to look for another job, they would allow you to practice what you chose. That's perfectly fine, but until then you can't do that. I wouldn't agree with those who say, well, in this case you better take it off entirely. Rather, I say ما لا يدرك كله لا يترك جله. I cannot afford to pray in congregation in the masjid, but at least pray on time. You know, not because you cannot afford to do anything perfectly, you drop it completely and you neglect it entirely. May Allah the Almighty guide us to what is best. Hopefully, inshallah, one day Muslims in the Muslim societies will be able to practice their deen freely. You know, before asking non-Muslim governments to allow Muslims to practice, we have actually first to give this freedom to Muslims in their own countries, where they are the citizens born and raised in these countries. Vast majority of the citizens are Muslims. The country is ruled by supposedly Islam, but many Muslims cannot practice their deen freely. And I'm not talking about doing things which are odd. I'm talking about things which are very commonly practiced. But may Allah make it easy for all of us. Allahumma ameen. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Fatima from Gambia.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We are very happy about your program in the Gambia. May God reward you and what you are doing.
Ameen. Do you have any questions, Sister Fatima?
Okay. My question is, I was asking examples. If your husband has another wife and he is not giving you your right, maybe he abandoned you for about 2 months and come back. So I was asking whether you should have sabr and sit and do nothing about it, and he doesn't as well pray. So I was asking, what is the ruling on that? So is it need for a divorce, or you should be patient? So that's the...
Okay, Jazakallahu khairan. You know, for some reason, the question which was asked about the treatment of the co-wives, last episode was also from Gambia. I want to know what is going on with the Gambian brothers. Being patient whenever your rights are not being fulfilled, or whenever you feel being oppressed, does not mean that you don't have the right to demand your rights. So yes, you have the right to ask your husband to be treated fairly and equally to the other wife. That is your right. But remind him with kindness and gentleness, not as a challenge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make him righteous and enable him to be fair in treating both of you. But being patient is required in every condition. It does not mean, though, that you neglect your rights or not ask for them to be fulfilled. Barakallah feek. In the last episode, I started answering the question of the brother who said, why should we worship Allah? I know that He is Allah, but why should we worship? Why does He expect us to worship Him? And of course, the answer can go on and on forever. But I would just like to refer to the ayah of Surah Yunus, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُمْ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَمَّنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ فَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. Ask them, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who is the one who provides you from the heavens and the earth? Who is the one who controls the sight, the hearing, and the rest of the faculties of senses? Who is the one who brings out the living out of the dead and brings the dead out of the living? You know this example, when you bring a dead seed and you plant it and it produces a dead palm tree carrying a lot of fruits. And when an egg hatches and produces a living, so the dead out of the living and the living out of the dead, that's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ. Who runs our affairs? It's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After all, you're asking, why should we worship Him? To be continued after this call, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Rabbani from the case says, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fine, alhamdulillah.
Brother, I just want to ask you something.
Go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Now, my question is, Ramadan is approaching now, and because my mother tongue is not Arabic, so I have noticed during Taraweeh that most of the Quran, actually, I cannot understand. So is it okay that if I take the translation in my hand and whatever the Imam is reciting, I can read in Urdu?
Okay. Jazakallah khair. No, it is not permissible to carry the translation in your hand. If you like to do something to learn what is being recited, you can do that beforehand or after the Taraweeh. When I was leading an Islamic center in the States, and of course the community mostly are non-Arab, Arabic is not their mother tongue, so we would break our fast, then sit before Isha and Taraweeh to study the meaning of what will be recited in the first 4 rak'ahs of Taraweeh. Then after praying the first 4 rak'ahs, we take a break, of course. So we explain or shed light on what will be recited on the following 4 rak'ahs. There are, of course, some prominent ayat which rings in your ears, and echoes. So putting emphasis on these ayat before the prayer, learning their meaning and so on, would help you a great deal to acquire khushu' in the salah. But what you're supposed to do in the prayer is just to listen to the Imam. Or you will be distracted by reading, and you cannot catch up with the Imam. You cannot do 3 or 4 things at once. Following up with the recitation that he's reciting in this ayah or this ayah, then reading the meaning in Urdu, and trying to link this to that. You cannot do that in the prayer. إذا قرأ القرآن فاستمعوا له وأنصتوا لعلكم ترحمون. That's why we have to listen and not do anything else while the Quran is being recited, especially in the prayer. Barakallah feek. I said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Maryam from Italy. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Maryam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the program.
This is my first time, and I want to thank you and all the crew for the beautiful work you are doing.
Thank you, Sister Maryam.
جزاكم الله جميعا خيرا.
وجزاكم. Same to you.
Brother, I already sent an email because I'm very new to the whole religion. I wanted to ask a question about a situation that I had. Practically, a friend of mine that lives in America, she lent me money, and I was supposed to give her back, to repay her back. And the only contact I had from this friend of mine was email and phone number. But I found out that I lost the email. Then I tried to call her to give her back the money, but I found out also she changed the telephone number. So in this case, what can I do? I mean, the Sharia, what does it say? How can I repay her back? Is there a way that I can solve this problem?
Sure.
Because I have to give her back.
Okay, Sister Maryam, first of all, thank you for joining us, and we appreciate that you called in for the first time, and welcome to the beautiful faith and religion of Islam. And this is what Islam exactly teaches, honestly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَى أَهْلِهَا وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُم بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ نِعِمَّا يَعْظُكُم بِهِ. Allah commands that we should pay back the amanat, plural of amana, the trust. If somebody trusted you with a loan, trusted you with a valuable thing to keep with you, you must return it back whenever they demand that thing to be returned. Now you lost contact with the person and you don't know how to get hold of her, and you showed a good faith by calling in, and you've done every possible thing. The scholar says in this regard, you can simply donate it, give it in a charity in her name. In her name. And I would advise that if you give it in a charity to an organization, you get a receipt with her name on it. And if I was in your position and I did so, then years later I found the person, I would show her the receipt and I say, I'm more than willing to pay you back if you want to, if I can afford to do that. May Allah bless you, Sister Maryam. We're very happy to have you as a guest on our program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Brother Muhammad from Gambia, and don't talk to me about another wife anymore. Assalamu alaikum. Muhammad, assalamu alaikum. Is it about another wife? Fine, alhamdulillah. Muhammad, do me a favor and mute your TV, please.
So we are very, very happy about this program, and we appreciate your report from Islam.
Jazakallahu khairan. Wallahi, we're very, very happy that you're able to watch us live and you're calling in. Thank you, Muhammad.
Thank you for your business. May God give you and then
Okay. Now, do you have any questions besides that? Jazakallahu khairan. We definitely appreciate it.
Only one question. The question is, our country here, when we pray any salat, most of the mosques, they will be that say salat al-Nabi. Is that an innovation here? It's a sunnah.
Okay, you asked about sending the peace and the blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ. Then what is the question?
Yes, after prayer.
After the prayer?
Yes, after the prayer, usually they say Salat al-Nabi together. All the Jama'ah, they make Salat al-Nabi together.
Okay, I got your question.
Round.
So it is definitely not about another wife. Okay, got your question. Thank you, Muhammad. Okay. A common practice that people do in some parts of the world, they do recite certain adhkar after the prayer in congregation, including sending the peace and the blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ. No doubt that one of the greatest deeds is to send the peace and the blessings upon Prophet Muhammad ﷺ every single time of the day, throughout your entire life. But doing it in this fashion in a congregation after every prayer is something that is not prescribed in the Sharia, that you may think that it's a part of the prayer. No, it is not. And the Prophet ﷺ did not do that. Remember what I said. It is a great deed full of virtues to send the peace and the blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Surah Al-Ahzab, and everybody knows this ayah. But doing it in this fashion after the prayer is not prescribed. Jazakallahu khairan, Muhammad, and thank you for calling in. Okay, before we wrap it up, the ayah of Surah Yunus, the beautiful ayah, قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, it just reminds you that you're enjoying everything, that you're enjoying all the blessings from Him. And then you still ask, why should I say thank you, Allah? Why should I thank Him and be grateful to Him? You should be grateful to Him because He says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. How is that? If you're grateful, Allah will give you more. وَمَنْ يَشْكُرْ فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ. Whoever is grateful is actually grateful for the benefit of his own, of himself. But وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ, whoever disbelieves, Allah is the richest, is all worthy of praise. So the ibadah does not benefit Allah. The ibadah again is to benefit our own selves. In the sacred hadith, Allah the Almighty says, if all of you, including the humans and the jinns, from the very first to the very last, were as righteous as the most devout worshipper of all of us, it would not increase Allah's domain on earth. And if all of us, humans and the jinn, from the very first to the very last, were as wicked as the most wicked person, it would not affect Allah's domain on earth. Being good is for yourself. من عمل صالحا فلنفسه ومن أساء فعليها. Being evil is against your own self. So we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to express our belief and to benefit our own selves. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what